Welcome to the Precon podcast. This is our first episode. I'm Julia. I will be the host for today. With that, I want to introduce our two key guests for today. So we have Lisa and Rick, who've been at the company for 10 years for Rick, and Lisa's been here for a few years as well, and she has a lot of experience on the event side and production side. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'm Lisa Arnold. I'm the Director of Event Operations at Precon. I've been here since 2021, and I have 19 years of event experience. I started on the meeting planning side at a nonprofit and moved over to the production side here in 2021, and have done global events and a lot here in the US as well.
Hi, I'm Rick Matthews. I'm the Vice President of Event Strategy here at Precon. I've been here for 10 years and I have almost 25 years of event experience. Started off working on the gear provider side and have now been on the production side for the 10 years. Worked in just about every state and all over the globe.
What we wanted to talk about today to start with is specifically hotel contracts. It is one of the biggest pain points, I would say, for those in our industry. There are people whose only jobs is to manage hotel contracts. There are people that's all they do. They don't do conference management. They don't do production. They only do the hotel contracting side. So, those are the pros, but not everybody has an entire job that revolves around that. So a lot of the planners and the people that we work with are at organizations. They are the head meeting planner. They're directors of organizations or nonprofits or even small for-profits that don't have an actual dedicated contracting person. So, talking through some of the challenges that they're facing if they don't necessarily have an additional resource, that's kind of what we wanted to talk about, and specifically for hotel contracts today. So when we're talking about hotel venue contracts, we're talking about the contracts that we all sign as meeting planners that include the hotel rooms, the sleeping rooms, the meeting space, any other concessions, things like that, suites. And then there's the things that we wanted to talk about specifically as AV and production providers that kind of get caught up with some of the folks that we work with, and that can cause really tough headaches down the road for them. Because so many people understand the sleeping rooms part. Like, we get it. We know attrition. We know peak room nights. We know how to work with, within those elements. But when you start talking about bandwidth and Ethernet and rigging points and motors and who's exclusive on truss, a lot of people don't understand that. And you're looking at me like you don't understand that. So that's what we're here for. And that's kind of what we want to talk about. That's what we want to talk about today. So, Rick, what do you think that we're looking at when we're in contracts, that if planners don't think about it until it's too late? They've signed the contract, they've done the thing that feels good, they've booked their rooms, they got their attrition, they're at 60% somehow. Like, they've got this great contract or no attrition, bam, $104 room night charge, woo, no resort fee, they've done it. What did they not think about for the rest of their contract?
So the first thing is always, it's where do we start? It's the loading. So, making sure we have adequate room holds, we have 24-hour holds, same general session all the time. So talking to your production provider about a setup day, most shows 1 day, some bigger shows need 2 days, 3 days, making sure we're factoring rehearsal times.
But Rick, what does that mean? Does that mean you don't like setting rooms 15 minutes before they're running? Oh, okay. All right, just to be clear.
Run 15 minutes. And also, if we do have to, maybe not 15 minutes, set in 6 hours, understanding what the costs are going to be to you as the meeting planner, and also understanding what that's going to look from an attendee experience and an executive experience. Maybe we don't get rehearsals. Maybe we have to rush a few things and we don't get the lighting cues that you look like. that you want.
Right. So do you think from a trade-off standpoint, do you think sometimes the planners think that the labor is going to be less expensive than an additional day, and it's not necessarily?
No, overtime is always more expensive. And it's also, again, just you want people alert and ready to go. People are not as alert if they started working at 4 a.m. for a noon kickoff that then you have them running into a dinner that evening.
I can
No one,
attest.
yeah, no one likes working 20-hour days. So working through those things early on, it's much easier to ask for space and then give it back than it is to not have the space to begin with. So I would say always try to capture as much space at the beginning. The hotel will always be happy to take it back from you.
So I have a question. So when rehearsing, I never even thought of that. You guys have to rehearse and then that costs money. So doing it, like you said, Rick, it's more costly to do it beforehand on that same day. Am I correct?
Yeah. So I mean, again, if you're doing a 3-day general session, what you may need is 1 day of setup, 1 day of rehearsals, and then a 3-day show. So negotiating that earlier into it is going to be much easier than going on. If we try to do rehearsals and setup in the same day, you're looking at lots of overtime for the crew. You're looking at a rush load-in time. And just that will again get costly as we need more people.
Yeah, especially if you have really touchy CEOs or if you have VIPs coming in, you have to be really considerate of what their schedules are. Do they have board meetings? A lot of VIPs will not show up for rehearsals the day before. You can reserve the day all you want, but they're going to want to come in the morning of. So it's just stuff to think about when you're booking the space and booking the rooms in the contract. So Rick, after space, let's say we have dream space holds, full day of setup. What's the next pitfall?
The next thing is, what are the ancillary costs that the hotel is going to charge you for? And, this is something where we can say with our experience what various hotels are seeing. So, the obvious ones that everyone goes to is power, internet, and rigging. Those are the three that, I think most people know about now. But then the additional ones you see sometimes hotels charging for riser sections, hotels charging for lecterns, hotels charging for easels outside the room, hotel charging for all sorts of miscellaneous things that at one stage was free and now unfortunately is costing more money. So the first thing I would say is ask for the production handbook. Ask for what that's going to look like. Lisa was just telling me earlier that she's seen some now that are approaching 200 pages. So Chat GPT may be your friend in that situation.
Right.
But just you can also just ask and say, what additional charges am I going to see on this? We're now seeing certain large hotels, they will not put more than 8 riser sections in a room. Anything more than 8 riser sections, you have to bring in from an outside vendor. A stage could easily cost you $8,000 to $10,000 for a week rental. So again, that's something to factor into your overall cost of the venue on those items. Lecterns, again, something else that more venues are now charging for. Now, just to move back to kind of the big three, power, internet, rigging. Power. Make sure, again, that you've got in there what you should be paying for power in meeting rooms. Some hotels say meeting room power is complimentary. Some say complimentary for the first 2 circuits. Some say you got to pay for everything. So make sure you understand what that is. And remember, at the beginning, this is all a negotiation with the hotel. So just because they say this is what it is, doesn't mean you can't negotiate that down, especially if the hotel really wants you in that space, they might be willing to make those concessions.
Right. And talking about it in advance, and I know bringing in your production company, bringing somebody in like Precon, bringing us in early and letting us have those conversations during the contracting period, we are so happy to do it. And your partner, your AV partner, your production partner should be happy to do it because it's going to help everyone in the long run. Having those conversations in advance, asking the questions. If you don't understand power, if you don't understand rigging, because a lot of people don't, and the same with the Ethernet, letting your partner come in, letting us come in and asking those questions before you've signed really puts you in the power position when you're contracting to be able to say, I know I need 60 feet of truss and 14 motors and all of this, and be able to say, what is this going to look like before you've signed the hotel contract? And we know, and Rick, we have all heard this, where they say, oh, well, that's a different contract. That's a separate provider. We can't speak to that. Yes, they can. We've seen it. The best contract I've ever seen was a conference direct contract that came in and asked for everything. They asked for the world in their contract. So that would be my first negotiation tip, would be to ask for more than you think is reasonable. Go in hard and down for even stuff that doesn't necessarily cost money, right? Like the level of waiters or bartenders you want per 100 people. Going hard for everything, including how much motors cost, even if you don't really understand it. Like, going hard for everything, and then you will get more than you think you will. But talking about those ahead of time, and they will give you concessions for their exclusive providers. They say, they start with, oh no, that's an exclusive, that's a different contract. But we know for a fact that they will provide discounts and price guarantees for those exclusive providers if you push.
And that's the other thing as well, is to make sure you get firm numbers in there. The
Yes.
first thing they're likely to throw out is 20% discount. Well, you don't know what they're discounting 20% on. Favorite in-house thing is to mark everything up 30% and then discount it 20%. You're paying the same price, they don't know. So make sure, again, when it comes to talking about internet, make sure you have some type of cap in that. You want 1,000 internet for 1,000 people at a standard speed of 5 megabits per second, and for $10,000 for the run of the show, including setup and teardown days.
If you get super specific on all of these items, how many motors are included, or what your price per motor is, what your price per drop is, or you're getting 5 for free because you want that concession. You want 5 megabit drops for free, and then you're wanting to pay 150 for every additional one after that, up to 10. Very specific, going hard with all of those additional services and things that you want, and you will get more than you think you can get. You absolutely will.
And again, remember, you don't have to use all of this, but at least you have it in the contract from the beginning, so you know what it is. But again, getting the hard numbers in the contract, not just 20% discount, will definitely save you later on. And then again, you can just start negotiating from there on what some of this stuff costs. The second thing, which kind of goes into the hand in hand, is keep data. At the end of the event, ask the hotel for your usage reports on the internet. Ask them for the usage reports on staging, anything that you've used, and then you can keep that information and drop into a spreadsheet. And then you can use that in the future to see what you actually need. I have one group that they found they were really only using about 30% of the internet they were ordering. So we were able to help them bring that cost down, which allowed them to use that money for food and beverage and other items to use the attendee experience. So don't be afraid after the event to ask for these reports from the hotel, because you don't know if you're going to be at the same property with the same internet provider the year later. So make sure you have that information. And again, that's something your production company should be able to help you with. I know we definitely do.
Oh my God. I never even thought of that. Like, you can ask them. So usually they wouldn't just offer to give you how much you've used that report. And so we keep all of that. That's awesome. Yeah. So do all production companies keep it, or is that something we just kind of know because we've been experiencing?
I know we do. I don't know about everyone else. Yeah, I mean, that's, again, should be something that, looking from a holistic viewpoint, that's kind of the big difference between a production company and an AV provider. We are looking at the overall picture, all the venues, everything, and not just the individual gear that we are providing, making sure the attendee experience is top notch.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's why we're happy to come in during that contracting process and help negotiate during that period, right? Is we don't want you to be surprised. Rick just came back. I'm not going to say from which property, but Rick just came back, and a nonprofit that does not have $70,000 was hit with a $70,000 surprise internet and rigging and power bill at the very last minute, for very basic. Like, we're not looking at the Grammys for their production schedule. Like, this is just some screens and projectors and having a regular program, and getting surprised by that after contracting weeks before your show, weeks before your program is, that's a really hard position to be in. You're in a much better position to have those fights. If it has to be a fight, have those fights, have those negotiations before contracting.
So in that case, in that nonprofit's case, they didn't have, they didn't know the information beforehand, so that's why they were hit with that after.
In that nonprofit's case, it was a contract that was unfortunately negotiated many years ago, and then got extended because of COVID. It was I think negotiated in 2015, was supposed to actualize in 2020, and then because of COVID got punted. So again, this is why you want to make sure at the end of it, you put a clause in there that says, like, no additional charges not spelled out can be accepted, because you don't know what the hotel is going to charge for down the line. I mean, I think we all would have agreed charging for staging was
Unheard of. Right.
5 years ago. And now the really big hotels, that's becoming more of the standard and limiting the number of pieces they even have. So you just want to make sure that whatever, a hotel revenue management person can think up of to gather the ancillary revenue, you're kind of protected on. Convention centers, big thing is room resets. You only get one, the only time you get a room reset is if you have food and beverage. So how are you looking at your schedule there to not be flipping these rooms every night? So this is again where, people who work on negotiating contracts can really help. We can really help you to tell you the pitfalls we've seen in either that market, that hotel, or similar hotels in similar markets, because these hotels all talk to each other. They all, no one wants to miss out on some revenue they've seen across the way. And we all talk to each other as well. And we want to make sure that, our clients are protected in what they're getting.
Well, and to Rick, to that point, for us to come in and to be able to help, something that we haven't really touched on, but that is big for us, is to have your contract allow us to come in and to help, right? So checking your contract for non-exclusive, clauses, right? So every hotel has exclusive. F&B, everyone's used to it. Rigging, more often than not, is generally exclusive. Electrical is usually exclusive as well, unless you're like in a barn in Nashville. There was just that one time, but like, but for us to come in and be able to provide, our production and our services, just checking for those clauses that say, like, you don't have to use the in-house, AV team, because they're not going to provide the service. They're not going to provide the same service. And once you're there, if you've signed that, it's a lot harder. It's a lot tougher to have us brought in, and be able to provide the type of service that we are able to.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point to end on, is that make sure everything we talk about is not consistent on using the hotel's in-house as the exclusive provider. So that, I think, would probably be the good takeaway in this, is make sure that's not the final part.
I think that's really helpful for like some key red flags, and especially having a partner, because I think as an outsider, you would never know these little intricacies that you guys are talking about.
right. I mean, I didn't know about truss motors until I came onto this side. So why, like, and what they should cost and what they shouldn't cost and things like that. So having a partner, I think, like Precon, or, even if it's not Precon, but having another partner that can be there during that part of the process, I think is really helpful. And I know that, and Rick, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we all agree that if anybody that is watching this or listening to this, if anybody wants to come and would like us to help look at their contracts before they've signed them, or would like them with help looking through production guidelines, especially. So if you have that 200-page production guideline and Chat GPT has made an absolute mess of it and doesn't make any sense, and you'd like help parsing out the potential challenges or the potential problem areas in that language, we'd be happy to take a look at it and start that conversation with you.
Yeah, if you guys have any last comments or tips.
The biggest thing I can say is to bring us in early. Happy to look at contracts earlier than signing, because that's when we're in the power position. But also ask for everything. Like where you feel uncomfortable, where you're like, oh, I'm asking for too much. That's where you should be. That's where you should go in, because the hotel is going to say no to a lot, but you're going to get more than you think. That would be my biggest tip for people on the AV side and the services side for hotel contracts.
Okay, great. Thank you both so much for your time, and we're looking forward to hearing everyone's feedback or questions. So we will talk to you in the next episode.